with regard to this young man, someone who started a movement as a teenager and helped to lift Donald Trump into the White House. What do we make of this latest turn?
Well, this, as Joe, as you pointed out, really does point to this fear many have had about an increase in political violence. We've seen the rhetoric over the past decade or so really intensify and an edge creep into the conversation when it comes to, the core cultural and political and social and policy issues that surround daily life in the U.S. And we've seen flashes of this violence actually manifest itself. Of course, more than a year ago, then candidate Donald Trump himself was the target of 2 assassination attempts. The one, of course, in Butler, Pennsylvania, that was so high profile when he emerged to say, fight, fight, fight. But then more recently, in June of this year, we saw 2 Democratic lawmakers in Minnesota who were targeted in their homes at night by a gunman who was politically motivated, according to authorities there. So this is the kind of incident that stokes the concern that the rhetoric and the intensified back and forth between the various and quite divided sides here in this country can spill over into violence. And that's something that we just heard the House Speaker address moments ago.
Mike, I think I'm going to ask you the question that a lot of people around the country are asking, which is there a policy response, some policy fallout that we can expect off the back of this?
Well, for the immediate moment, there will be calls for prayer for Charlie Kirk and for his family in the wake of this terrible incident, and calls from both sides really to step back from the brink of violence. But then the actual policy steps, that always gets more tricky. And sad to say, in many respects, it is to be expected that each side will fall back on the norm, with Democrats perhaps urging more control of firearms and access to firearms, and Republicans, pointing to questions about extremism on the left. And so when it comes to a policy prescription emerging from this, or from, for example, the incident in Minnesota just weeks ago, the school shooting at a Catholic school in Minnesota, it is more of the same that we're likely to hear on this. And really the whole issue, Critty, is the question of political rhetoric and people now willing to take that next step and follow on their worst instincts and urges, as we have seen fomented and promoted on social media for several years now.
I want to go to Kate Sullivan, who's at the White House for us. Kate, just bring us up to speed on the reaction where you are.
So we're seeing an outpouring of messages of prayer and condolences from across the White House and the broader Trump administration. The president called Charlie Kirk legendary. He said nobody understood or had the heart of the youth in the United States of America better than Charlie. Charlie Kirk was a fixture on the campaign trail. I saw him at countless events across many different battleground states when I was covering the Trump campaign last year. The president has credited him with really boosting his his turnout among young people and getting young people excited about his campaign. Charlie Kirk founded Turning Point USA, which specifically advocates for conservative politics on high school and college campuses. So we saw Charlie Kirk host many, many events across college campuses, particularly during the campaign season. Before news came out that he had actually died, J.D. Vance posted 3 different times on social media, posting a photo of himself and Kirk, saying Kirk would answer any question and talk to everyone. So you're seeing, the close ties that Kirk has with many people in the White House, many different Republican officials. We're all just reacting to this horrific news right now.
Somewhat unusual to have this announcement come from the president of the United States himself. Kate, is the press office or communications office saying anything about the fact that the commander-in-chief told us this, as opposed to Kirk's family?
No, and that's a great point and question. All we know is what Trump has posted, and we're seeing, after he posted, then J.D. Vance posted, and so a lot of people are, of course, taking cues from the president and reacting to this news that, as you're completely correct, that Trump broke on Truth Social himself.
Do we expect the president to speak about this, or is the Truth Social post going to speak for the president this evening?
As of, unless he has posted something in the last few seconds. We have
Nothing
not heard of
scheduled.
any firm plans. Nothing scheduled at the moment. He on his schedule there was a Rose Garden event in the Rose Garden Club. It's unclear whether that is going to move forward, and so I think things are still trying to figure out what the schedule is tonight and moving forward, and what more the president might say about this.